not only do you gain $10,000, but you also have absolutely no barrier to entry, meaning there is not a penny that we collect as far as an entrance fee. There is not any sort of a resume you need to send us. There is no team that is so insignificant or so significant that we would prohibit from entering. So if a Major League Soccer team wanted to come play us, we would let them. If a group of guys from the city that work at auto shops wanted to form a team, great, they can enter.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of What's Next. And this is pretty cool for me because oftentimes I get a chance to mix it up with people from varying backgrounds, varying sports, varying levels, but not very often do I get another goalkeeper who I get to sit in with. And my hope is for you, we actually have an intelligent conversation here, but I think you're going to enjoy this because here's a guy who literally has been through the journey of U.S. soccer, ultimately culminating in a chance for a trial with Dynamo Kiev, which arguably one of the top teams in the world, and yet has come back to not only have a day job of helping business owners like we do grow and sustain and multiply, but also get a chance to do this at the youth soccer level. So we're going to use soccer today as kind of a way to talk about some business concepts. And Alex, thank you for joining us. I am so stoked to have you here. And maybe just for our audience, give them a lay of the land. So you've got Detroit Metro FC. We'll talk a little bit about your law practice in a bit, but what is Detroit Metro FC and why does it matter to you?
First of all, thank you so much, Bryan, for having me on. This is a massive honor for me. And I have such fond memories of watching you play goalkeeper throughout my youth. You were very inspiring to me. Detroit Metro FC is really the culmination of my entire life's work. And it's something that it would be nearly impossible to go back to 18-year-old version of me and predict forward that this would be where it goes. Yet in hindsight, like everything else, it makes perfect sense. It's everything. It's a culmination of my legal acumen, my business acumen, my sporting acumen. And really the entire purpose is to create a third door. There are a couple of pathways in US soccer that are prevalent. They exist. We're not looking to replace in any way, shape, or form. We're only looking to supplement. And we are a completely free soccer pathway. And in many ways, that makes it much more selective and honest and real. As we get into the conversation today, I'll talk about how that was designed, why that was designed, but we are exactly what we say we are. Completely fully funded privately, not in need of any paywall situation from any player whatsoever. And that allows us to be very honest very quickly. And we've already had some tremendous success stories in the short time that we have existed. We've been putting it together for 4 years, but have operated for one. We're entering our second season, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Enlighten us, for those familiar with soccer in the country, right? We won't talk about the entire global ecosystem, which could take up a whole show. In the United States, pretty well known. We've got Major League Soccer that occupies the top tier. You've got USL Soccer, which has championship in Division One. And then, so where does Detroit Metro FC play and where do they sit in that pyramid or hierarchy?
For the sake of brevity, we are in Tier 4. Tier 4 in the United States has more acronyms and leagues than I care to know about. And in Detroit itself, if I were to throw a pebble, I'm not hitting just 8 clubs like us. I'm hitting 8 leagues like us. So we are completely insignificant from a league standpoint, but very significant from a strategic one.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of times for our audience and our clients who are business owners, we can feel like the industry we're in is insignificant compared to Fortune 100 and 500 clubs. And yet what we do has a monstrous effect, not only on the families that we employ, the communities that we are part of. And that's where I think this combination of soccer is a mirror of life, so to speak. I think we're going to get into that here. So as we look at the team itself, I think it's worth noting early because it sets a stage. You've created what's called the Merit Cup, $10,000 awarded to any team, regardless of league and tier where they're at, to come in and play against your team for the chance to win $10,000. Where in the world do you get that idea, and how does that make sense? And what does that end up proving for you?
Great question. Let me paint the model and paint the picture. Not only do you gain $10,000, but you also have absolutely no barrier to entry, meaning there is not a penny that we collect as far as an entrance fee. There is not any sort of a resume you need to send us. There is no team that is so insignificant or so significant that we would prohibit from entering. So if a Major League Soccer team wanted to come play us, we would let them. If a group of guys from the city that work at auto shops wanted to form a team, great, they can enter. Why would someone do that is a question I get constantly, especially from the business community, which is where I spend all of my time. And I'll tell you some of the challenges. Challenges are it's free. So in the business community, it by definition has no value. Why would we enter it? It's so insignificant. That's the point. I know forthright with no question whatsoever that there will not be a Major League Soccer team that enters. Would I love them to? Yes. But they have nothing to gain. 10,000 isn't going to change their day, but losing would change their entire picture. That's why we did it. We want to grow our image and the image of this model into something that people look at and go, there's something to that. There's something to getting rid of this sort of paywall or this sort of pathway and creating something completely autonomous and new. It's not just for the lower, it's for the higher tier as well. And I don't want to spend the entire day talking about soccer. I obviously could and would love to, but there is a global perception of the general American player that I think stems from this very factor that over the years, our players, while some do thrive in Europe, there is a resistance because of these very pathways. And the way that we structured ourselves was to actually prepare players to be ready to compete, not just in their age, not just in a market where they've had success since they were XYZ years old and they have their place secured. But we don't have a single player of the 50 that are part of our roster right now that expect the second on the team. And that's meaningful. And over time, the quality rises. And while we've already shipped one across to Germany, the plan is to create that for many more.
I love it, man. I could go in so many different directions. I'm going to keep walking this fine line between business and sport here, because that, again, that resonates with the audience. At what point did you realize, and maybe it's an evolution of things, what point did you realize that sort of the incentives are misaligned? In the case of pay-to-play soccer, there's this belief that if I do it long enough, I paid long enough into it, I'm deserving of something. But I think we see that in business from time to time. So we'll start with where was that brokenness that you saw there? And what was the first move to change that, other than just, hey, we're not going to have pay-to-play? I think that's a big leap. But with those incentives being misaligned, what was the first thing that said, hey, I think I can flip this around?
Before I get into it, I always drop the following disclaimer because I think it's just so important. I don't have a problem with pay to play. I think pay to play has a tremendous amount of value if honestly run and put together for the right reasons that are aligned with our own. I do, however, have a very hard time with false advertising within pay to play and organizations that use pay to play simply for financial gain and not for the development of human beings. What I will say as far as pay to play, if you look at it strictly from a financial standpoint, which is I'm investing in the sporting ability of my youth player, there is a clear misalignment. And here's when I first noticed it. In college, I went to the University of Michigan. I was a very insignificant soccer player there. Again, the varsity team wouldn't even let me try out when I first entered U of M. And the club team at that time, from a strictly financial standpoint, was a far superior business model for the development of men than the varsity team. Why do I say that? We only trained a bit, maybe once or twice a week. Commitment was low, level was high. No eligibility would get in any way hampered by playing on the club team. You could have professional players playing on the club team. We did. We had MLS soccer players playing on the club team. We had a player on the club team that played Champions League soccer.
Wow.
Why on earth would someone go to the University of Michigan without a scholarship? There's no scholarships for club soccer. It makes perfect logical sense to those intelligent enough to go to that school. You go there because when you go to U of M, you're going to sit at a table with future senators. You're going to sit at a table with future Fortune 500 execs. You're going to sit at a table with managing partners of law firms. Those positions pay enough to justify the tuition of the school. That's why that school survives in the time where college education is on the way down. That school thrives even though tuition is rising. So soccer, what did soccer look like back then? I think is a key question. What did those guys make in the MLS that they would then go to U of M and spend 70, 80 grand a year on law school? That makes no sense, does it? It does. MLS back then paid about 8 grand a year. MLS back then, you had 3 roommates. You had to have however many other jobs to supplement it. And while that was, I'm not completely ancient, but this is a while ago. How much has it changed? I'll go fast forward. I started an organization in 2018 that currently has 4 starters in the MLS. So now we're talking a little bit more modern. They still would make more if they simply went through D1 college and graduated and became consultants or attorneys or doctors. Far more. It's not close. So while perhaps it's changed as far as some of the perception, the financials haven't. And if you go and you tie that to youth soccer, which I'll paint a financial picture, very little of it is free, if any. It was when I was a kid. That's going away. Travel soccer, which is pay to play soccer in most communities, is about $4 grand a season just for the club dues, not talking about traveling around, which is now rampant. Or you go to one of these residential academies, which is great branding. However, if you're not one of the 3, 4 at the very top of that is being funded by the rest, and you're the one funding the rest, that tuition is approaching $80,000 a year.
Yep.
How does that math make sense? And when we talk about misaligned financial incentives, if it's actually predicated on the concept that you're going to earn back your investment into your soccer, it simply does not make a hint of sense.
And so in the club aspect, I get where if it's possible, we'd make that free. I don't know as a country walking that all the way backwards, but let's just say there are instances of doing that. And again, this could be a tangent thought here, but at what point you've got a commitment of capital coming from someone, whether that's like yourself who are funding it or others that are putting it up? I'd have to imagine it's not all philanthropic, right? So that capital does have some desire on a return. How do you see that? Is that in transfer fees? Is that in, where does that come about that at the end of the day, you'd still say, yes, we have now more capital to do this again next year, next decade, next whatever, that it doesn't just turn into, hey, it was a really good idea, but we ran out of resources, right? Because I think we tie that to business. Hey, this was a great incentive. We did it through R&D. We didn't really commit to it long-term. It ran out of resources. How do we make sure this concept is one you're actually doing at Detroit Metro, if it's got a pull from that capital, how do you satisfy the capital so that it does have some return?
Excellent question. Excellent question, because we are not a philanthropic organization. This is not a charity. It is simply a third door. So without diving too far into the weeds, I will share a little bit more background. I was the sporting director of a European club. Being the sporting director means the following. My roles and responsibilities include hiring the technical staff and bringing in players on a budget for the purpose of competition. Here is the difference between European football and that in the United States. Sorry, soccer here. In Europe, being good at soccer is lucrative. Being good at soccer is compensated. When you look at the heart of why we launched the Merit Cup, it is to start in a very small way, trying to move the needle in the US towards that. Now, I know it's only the beginning. 10,000 is a nice prize for some, but it's not a game changer. So in Europe, when I did that role for one season, our organization turned an annual profit. Our revenue was over €1 million because of how well we played the game. Now, that is unheard of and impossible within the current infrastructure of the US. Also, from a sporting mechanism standpoint, you mentioned a couple terms of art. We're talking about solidarity, we're talking about transfer fees, and we're talking about training compensation. Those are the 3 major mechanisms under which you could run an actual business within Europe, within 100+ year infrastructure that I could talk about ad nauseum and would bore your audience to death under. However, The point is this: in Europe, you are compensated for the success of your players from young age to an elder age. It is bracketed, it is codified, it is legally enforced. You could go to sports court and collect upon fees if necessary. In the US, there is no actual sporting mechanism outside of its own system. So for that reason, in order to have success in the US, you have to be part of this closed system that may choose to compensate you. But just like those teams would never willingly enter our Merit Cup, there is no way on earth they would ever pay us for one of our players. Why would they? It only weakens their position and only weakens the closed system that they operate under. So for us, there's a couple of ways to cash flow, and we haven't done it yet. I'm very honest about it. One would be we find a way to move our players into an actual global ecosystem. So we did send a player to Germany successfully, and it was a heartfelt story, but they're not good enough yet to be compensated at a level enough where it actually makes us cash flow. No problem. Year one, we're building a pathway in a real intelligible way. We also put on a great show. Why is US soccer so far less interesting than soccer everywhere else in the world? And I am addicted to soccer. I have a very hard time watching US soccer unless I'm actively coaching my own team. US soccer, you could be the worst possible team playing against the best possible team, and you have nothing to lose. You play, it's over. There's no going down a league when you lose. There's no going up a league when you win. There is no actual financial reward that's anywhere close to meaningful enough to matter. So that's a big structural difference between European clubs where you go to your local library, you pick up a book, and there's plenty of stories that are incredibly interesting where those very same guys working at a gas station have started a club at night. They have trained, they have excelled, they have gone from tier 8 to tier 1 and earned a substantial sum of money. And that is fun to watch. I will watch any tier of any soccer in any part of the world on any day. I cannot watch the MLS championship. It bores me to death.
I think the global TV audience would agree with you as we're enlightened into the world of Wrexham, and that was put on full display, right? We can look at this team in a small Welsh community, rundown stadium, gets an infusion of capital from a couple of movie stars, which didn't hurt. But along the way, they did use that catalyst to essentially move up to the ranks of, who knows, one day, maybe playing in the English Premier League. And I don't think they're far away from maybe realizing that dream. But the truth is, if they hadn't won, they wouldn't be there. They would still be in the 6th division and it wouldn't matter. So I think love the vision for how you've started this, which is truly at the ground level, right? So I think the analogy or the parallel I'll draw with any of our business owners is not everything has to be at the big grand scale. There are plenty of places you could look even with your own companies and say, hey, this might be worth doing down here because in the spirit of it can be promoted, right? To maybe force that term in there. That's what R&D is about. And I think we're losing some of that within our companies, that we're stopping the R&D part and we're relying, whether it's on AI or the buy versus build mentality, we're sort of abandoning this idea of, hey, let's start something that can get promoted within our company. And at the same time, if something's not working, let's relegate it, right? To bring those two things in. And you're doing it here in real time with Detroit Metro, which is very cool. Totally side note here, but for the games, do you guys, when you talk about entertainment, like real entertainment value, not I'm going to see a play, but I'm really going to see sporting merit here. Do you guys charge for the games? Do you envision, if you don't do it now, doing it in the future? How does that look?
We absolutely charge for the games. It is a stream of revenue for us, and we also invest heavily in our games. So we're intentionally investing in these games, knowing that we're not going to turn enough fans early on, but building a channel that will. So here is how we've invested from day one. We hire a DJ. We hire drummers. We hire an entertainment company for children that puts bounce houses up. We sell alcohol. We sell delicious food. We've attracted 25 corporate sponsors. We have a business that is going to grow over time. And again, this is not philanthropic. It is not charitable. It is not just entertainment, but we're adding it. We need the entertainment piece because in our view, US soccer needs more organizations that put on a real event And when you look at what we offer as opposed to other sports in our area, there's a tremendous value. And we have spiked at about 1,000 fans a few times, and it's been nice. But this year, it's going to be way nicer, way bigger, and we're investing even more aggressively to play at nicer venues as well for some special events. There are other models within sport outside of soccer that are outside of major league sports that are crushing
Mhm.
it financially. For us, we're just trying to find that balance where we don't lose the heart of the sport. We're trying to have a very serious product on the field, but supplement it with fun in the stands. We don't want to go all the way of our players doing choreographed dances and all of that. It's great. It's a great business model. But for us, because our purpose is actually to develop proper professional soccer players, and I'll use my wife's definition, you're not a professional unless you can feed your family with it. And there are so few professional soccer players from the US. It's 1% of 1% of 1%.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is develop those players to end up at the best clubs on the planet, which are all in Europe. They are in Europe. There's no question within the community that to do that, you have to be ready to go compete in Europe. So that for us is the focus without investing all of our capital into that one goal. It's one of the things we're looking to put together, but it's not the primary. We want a great event. We want free soccer for everybody, which is in fact what we offer. We don't charge even for tryouts. Everything we do is you might play for the most expensive pay-to-play academy in the city, and you might think you deserve a lot, but wear a white t-shirt to our tryout if you even have the audacity to show up. Because I'll tell you what, we got guys that can't afford pay-to-play that can ball, and they are better
Mhm.
than you. And we don't want a resume. We don't want a video. We don't want a reference from your coach. Or we don't want your mom to show up with you. You sign a liability waiver. If you're under 18, your mom does. And we play. And we choose who we believe are the best. And we get them wrong all the time, like any sporting director would, because this is not track and field. I don't know that your time is this many milliseconds better than the other one's time. I'm just using my trained eye, and my two assistant coaches are doing the same. The only prohibition is my young children are not allowed near me at this. That is absolutely not possible. You can't build a real system when your kid is in it, not this way. And the other one is I don't talk to my coaches at all. It has to be individualized assessments. And then we get together without any kind of group think. And if enough of the three of us, it's two right now, decide that one is interesting, we invite them back one more time. It's really that simple. And we give the sauce away because our whole purpose is to be replicated and bettered upon, and not just out of market, which is another big problem in our view of US soccer in general. We don't own a franchise or a territory. I would love my next door neighbor to get inspired by this and come beat us at soccer.
Yeah.
We want copycats, clones, smarter folks. Do it. We're giving it away for free.
And let's shift it a little bit, and we're going to talk about kind of where to find you guys and do. We'll cover that at the end. But when you think about what do you intentionally like, what behaviors are you intentionally working on, maybe both on the field, and you just talked about other people looking and trying to replicate this with the system that you're building. So when you look about, I always think about things as behaviors, right? Those incentives do align with and create behaviors. So as you think about that, is it for US soccer? Is it a business mantra? Is it both? I know there's a stacking of questions there, but I'm curious is, yeah, I guess ultimately to distill it down, what are you trying to intentionally engineer with this sort of proof of concept?
We're trying to actually make US soccer more competitive, and we're also trying to very ethically and honestly develop human beings and not in a fictitious way. So why do we give it away for free? Because we know that no matter how well we operate, the odds of even us creating a player that's globally relevant are almost zero. Our players know that. We're not deceptive about it. There is nothing there in any way, shape, or form that they could ever point to that's anything but honest. We put our team standards out on social media so others can copy them. We teach our team standards every day. We live them every day. And the conversation that you and I are sharing is shared with our group. We just had our preseason PowerPoint a week ago. They know that the market value of their skill set is infinitesimally lower if they're going to be a quote unquote professional soccer player than if they were to apply the same skills that we are teaching to almost any other industry. So we hold them to very simple standards. You tell us if you're going to come or not. And I laugh because candidly, I don't believe that schools are necessarily developing these skill sets very well anymore. You simply have to tell us your commitment. You don't have to come to a single practice, but you have to check the box and say, I am. 1 minute after the event starts, one of the 3 coaches, myself included, is a bouncer for 5 minutes. You're there 1 minute late, you turn around and you go home. That is a standard. We are building the most simple, least original idea on earth into our model because we actually believe that the way that it's currently structured, it's been taken away. If you're paying XYZ dollars to be part of an organization, you can be late. You're a customer. You can show up whenever you want and put in as little work as you want. You show up 1 minute late to Detroit Metro FC, you're not on Detroit Metro FC. And I believe that if you can live through that successfully for even 1 season, you are head and shoulders above the average product of what I have seen the system develop, which is entitled, spoiled, lazy thinkers. We are creating accountable members of society that are there knowing why they're there. And we say this almost every training session. We have succeeded if you're actively looking to replace your own minutes. If you're bringing others that you believe are better than you because you believe in this project that much, we are succeeding. And we are. I know because I'm there. We train 4 times a week. No one gets charged. Again, the financial model, the time model makes very little sense compared to my primary, which is the billable hour. But I believe that the work product that we are producing at Detroit Metro has a bigger positive impact on the world than anything else.
So I think that's a perfect sort of capstone to this whole concept, right? Of why it made sense to be on the show. I think what people take out of it. What I'm hearing is your bold movement to shake things up, but not doing it haphazardly. You've given this a lot of thought, and in no way, shape, or form can a 30 or 40-minute podcast capture it. You and I have had the chance to share a couple of cups of coffee over it. So impact's got to start somewhere, right? You've started with the club. You've actually started with the thesis, then the players, then the club. I look at Detroit metro area. I call that home like you do. What's your hope that kind of as you take this and develop it and grow it and it's going to iterate, what do you hope the Detroit metro business community, because those could oftentimes be sponsors, they could want to be part of the game day events. They may want to come alongside you. What do you hope that the Detroit business community kind of looks at outside of the wins and losses, outside of the Merit Cup? What do you want them to see? As you've been very transparent about all the stuff you're working on, but what do you want the Detroit metro area business-wise to kind of look in and see, like, I think that's new, that's fresh, and something I'd be interested in checking out?
I want them to look at the statistics of the number of talented young individuals that choose to leave this market and get really intentional about how to keep them here. Because something of this nature is infinitely more appealing in my view. I have children. I know what I want them to grow into, and I know the conditions that I put around them to try to make them successful without doing it for them. And when there's an organization like this that is privately funded, that is in fact what we say we are, sponsorship dollars can be deeply meaningful for our, not just sustainability, but for our growth. Right now, we have in fact launched a fully funded academy element, not supplemented by any lower tier pay-to-play players that are funding it. But it's only the beginning. We have in fact purchased a house with 5 rooms. It's a start. But with funding, sky's the limit. Facilities, proper schooling, all of the things that an MLS academy currently offers. And it's not cheap, but we're not that crazy. We can't fund it that big ourselves. What a community play for a major company that wants to create a program to keep talented Detroit area players here instead of right now. The only real choice, if you really want a shot of the 1%, is to leave here at about 15 years old and move to Inter Miami or Sporting Kansas City or any number of MLS clubs, Philadelphia Union, great youth academy. Why wouldn't we figure out a way to keep them here in Detroit without waiting for possibly somebody to invest $1 billion plus into the MLS closed system? We're doing it right now in our own way. So with a little bit more funding, wow, what a chance to make a difference for any company that cares about such a thing.
Oh, I love it. And folks, if you're listening in the car, check the show notes down below. You'll have all the links of where to get in touch with Alex, how to follow the team. We give you the team link there. I've got a guest schedule is going to be coming out soon, and people gearing up for the spring and the fall. I will say personally, check out Alex on LinkedIn. If you want to see a really great blend between sport thinking and business application, Alex, I've loved your writing. Can't wait till they come out every week. You do a great job. I think you blend those together. And more than anything, you've really shown us, I think, in a refreshing way to be authentic about who you are. Like, I happen to know you in both the soccer world and in the professional world. And I confirm that how you are in the office is how you are in the field. How you are in the field is how you are when we get a cup of coffee. And when you get a cup of coffee, it's the same guy I'm going to see at the office. So I think that's been the most important thing that any of our audience members can take away is be authentic. When you have these crazy, bold ideas like Alex have, go for them. Who's to say where they're going to turn up, but go for them. Don't stuff them in a back pocket. Make a bold thing like offering 10 grand to come play our team to any team in the country. That's freaking crazy, but I love it. Alex, I guess as a parting shot, what do you hope the audience, again, mostly high-level athletes, business entrepreneurs, owners, division owners, what do you hope that they know or want to know about you, and anything else you'd like to drop a pearl of wisdom on us?
Core values, autonomy and merit. I think that being born in the former Soviet Union, Ukraine now, and moving here, this is an unbelievable country. I love this country deeply. The things that you can accomplish here and the manners in which you can do them are almost unlimited. And like you said, Bryan, if you have one of these ideas, I have failed in 20 plus startups since I can remember and succeeded in a handful. And what a life. Do it. Go for it. Don't be shy about it. Don't be one of the ones that just, the man in the arena, Tom Brady,
Yep.
my alma mater, my God, just make it happen. That's my message to everybody. If you're one of the guys that we cut, my God, come beat us. Come take our money. Tell us we're wrong. Prove it to us. That's my favorite thing in the world. I've never cut a player with anything but hope that I was wrong and they proved it. So that's my message.
No, I love it. And I think it'll be music to the ears of everybody listening, as not many are used to sitting on the sidelines. And when they do, they're pissed as hell and can't wait to either prove somebody wrong, as you said, or work harder and get onto that space. And the whole mantra of this show has been, when you become an entrepreneur, a business owner, or if you're already running a company and you're stuck at 5 million, how to get to 50, it probably existed for you on the field already. And that is, you weren't satisfied. You found a way to work harder. You found a way to prove somebody wrong. Whatever the chip on your shoulder was, you leveraged it to do great things on a pitch, on a field, on an ice sheet, wherever it was. The same thing applies in business for sure. Alex, thank you for taking the time with us, man. This has been amazing. I love the fact that we get to be in the same community. Looking forward to seeing Detroit Metro this summer. And again, if you want to find a way to connect with Alex, love all that in the show notes below. As always, we'd say, pass this along to somebody else who needs to hear it. These are the kind of words of wisdom and come from people who are living it, doing it, and have the boots on the ground to make it happen. We love you guys. Thanks for being a part of What's Next, and we'll see you on the next episode. That's the pod.